This is Mikko Hyponen, one of the pioneers of cybersecurity. Mikko is the Chief Research Officer with WithSecure, which is the former F-Secure for Business. Mikko's been with F-Secure since 1991. His impact on the industry has been significant for sure. Mikko's done a lot of work on an analysis on some of the earliest viruses and worms, all the way to today, providing his expertise into current malware and cybercrime activity. We're going to talk about ransomware today and the first decade of this threat, which was the theme of Mikko's keynote this week here at Ransomware. At RSA. So, how you doing?
You're doing great. Yeah, it's,
Can we tell it's the last day of RSA?
I know, but it's great to be in RSA. You meet so many people, and I've actually heard a lot of talks this week as well, so that's great.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get buried in meetings and conversations, you forget that there's actual information being exchanged here this week.
Yes.
I mean, before we jump into the ransomware topic, obviously, you've been in this industry practically since its infancy. I mean, ever step back and look at what goes on today and just like, wow, how did we get here?
Yep. I was thinking about exactly that yesterday. As I was walking through the expo, and the expo just doesn't end. It goes on and these massive booths for huge companies, and then 1,000 companies you've never heard of. And I was wondering about when did this all happen? Like this is a huge industry nowadays. In 1991, when I was doing reverse engineering for the first time in my life, there was no industry. There was nothing. And so it's all grown over these couple of decades, and it's quite amazing. So we've built something.
Right. It is wild, and like, the influx of startups never seems to end. Like you said, that show floor goes on forever. There's two rows, endless companies and endless tables.
Unfortunately, it also means that there continues to be a problem to solve. I mean, we wouldn't be here without bad people. We wouldn't be here without online crime. So, the internet is a reflection of the real world, and just like we have real world has crime, online world has crime. And I don't think that's going to change, not until we run out of bad people.
Yeah. What are some of the milestones you look back on the last 25, 30 years?
I think the biggest change has been the change in the enemy. Because I still remember fighting teenage kids who were writing viruses for fun, sure. for kicks, for no real reason. They wanted to destroy things or show messages, play games with the victims, things like that. Which means they got no recognition, they got no fame, they made no money. And that's so different from today. The time of these happy hackers, it's completely behind us. And I think the biggest shift happened in 2003. Because in 2003, we found the first money-making malware, the first worm which is really going around in larger numbers for the sole purpose of creating a botnet which was used to send spam, and spam makes money. So that's when money making started, so 21 years ago. And at the same time, in the same year, we analyzed in our labs the very first governmental malware case we ever had, which was
that far back?
Yeah, 2003. The Chinese malware, which we later attributed to PLA, which was hitting defense contractors in Europe. So that's when the change really happened, from the old school time of hobbyists to this world where we live today, where everything is coming from organized online cybercrime gangs or from nation states.
Was that sample you mentioned, was that espionage related, or?
Yep, it was hitting one particular defense contractor in Europe, which was building fighter jets, stealing fighter jets plans and sending them back to mainland China. We later attributed several related malware cases to the same source, which we later figured out was the Liberation Army of China.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that you mentioned the botnets and just that propagation of spam, because it quickly became phishing.
Yep, absolutely, yes. And of course, then we started seeing credit card theft and banking Trojans, and then 10 years ago, ransomware. Well, ransomware with the Bitcoin angle, that's a different thing to keep in mind here. We had seen things like police Trojans or the Reveton family, which were locking people's computers, asking them to pay to unlock the computer, and they were claiming to be the police.
Right.
Your system is locked. But the payment mechanism in those early attempts was virtual credit cards or prepaid cards, which was really hard for the criminals. It was really easy to track where the money went. And then in 2013, we found CryptoLocker. And CryptoLocker was the first Bitcoin-enabled ransomware. Bitcoin was invented in 2009, so 4 years later, first ransomware using Bitcoin was found. And the interesting link between the old world and new world is that very first cryptolocker distribution hitting home users was through the Zeus botnet. Remember Zeus, banking Trojan botnet, hundreds of thousands of infected companies around the world. It was making all its money with like stealing money from people's online bank accounts. The very same botnet built by Russian Yevgeny Bogachev was used to distribute the very first Bitcoin-enabled ransomware. This was 2013. And it's almost impossible to remember anymore how different the ransomware problem was back then. All of the early Bitcoin-enabled ransomware cases, like CryptoLocker, CryptoWall, Locky, CTP Locker, they were all targeting home users. This was a consumer problem.
Right.
None of those were hitting companies. None of those were targeting enterprises. So the thing they were really encrypting were your photos. Your holiday pictures got encrypted, and the ransom amounts they were asking for were $200, $300. Right? Quite different.
Yeah, I remember writing about some of those early infections in there. Like the ransom note was you downloaded illicit images or you visited some website you shouldn't have. And like you said,